Hello and welcome on this cold but sunny Sunday, January Sunday. And welcome to Tea with a Therapist. And my name is Phil Naylor. I am a psychotherapist, and this is my tea. As you can see, it is tea. So thank you for joining me. And this is my kind of a new effort to reach out to people and kind of put my thought stream out there in the larger thought stream in hopes of helping people to better understand and work with their mental health and wellness, and just understanding who they are and how they work a little bit better. And so the topic for today, and I took this topic from our last session. This is only my second session, by the way. So please put up with any of my rough spots in terms of presentation, polish, etc., and fumbling my way through this kind of new format. Today's topic is negative self-talk. I got a request for somebody to talk about how we deal with negative self-talk. So that's going to be our focus for today. These sessions, by the way, are held every Sunday at 4:30, and they last about 20 to 30 minutes, around 25 minutes. And what I'm trying to do is to both provide, address topics that are interest to the people that are watching, that they may bring up, and also that I might present a kind of different concepts and frameworks and principles that are going to help people work with their own mental health issues, and just to understand, just for personal development purposes, really. So this is just chats that we have to talk about these things. And just the proviso that although I am a therapist, this isn't therapy. I'm not doing psychotherapy in these sessions. This is really just information and education, and just hoping to inspire people to learn more about themselves and to understand mental health and wellness issues. So first of all, I wonder if I could get people just to let me know if they are hearing me, because I just want to make sure there's sound. And I've got a little microphone here because somebody did complain that they didn't have good sound last time. So I just want to do a sound check. So if somebody wouldn't mind, just in the comments box, just saying they can hear me or not. Just say, I can hear you. I know there's a bit of delay on these things. So I think my microphone's working okay, because previously I kind of saw the sound thing going up and down. So, but anyway, if anybody could just let me know if they can hear me or not hearing me, that would be great. So let's jump right into the whole topic, negative self-talk. That is probably one of the most common things that people encounter. Some of the most common thing that tortures people actually in their day-to-day, that they, are coming down on themselves. They talk to themselves in these negative ways, and that really affects our mental well-being. And of course, all of us struggle with that. Everyone has this little voice in their head that likes to criticize them and likes to tell them about all the things they're doing wrong and all the things that they'll never be capable of. And that can be really, really hold us back. And as a matter of fact, it's one of the, thank you, it's fine, somebody says, it's one of the most common things that are dealt with in therapy, negative self-talk. It relates to all kinds of things, depression, anxiety, and it is also, it's a good topic area because it kind of pulls on a number of concepts that are important to understand that underlie therapy in general and how our minds work in general. So, so we all talk to ourselves. We all talk to ourselves. We often notice the negative voices. Sometimes we talk to ourselves in all kinds of ways in our head. And so the only difference between us and a kind of crazy person is that, a crazy person is talking out loud, and they're not, it's just not contained within their head. So there's really no big difference between us and a crazy person, except that we're aware that it's just going on in our head. And we're not verbalizing it out loud. Although we tend to project or verbalize things that we're really thinking about ourselves to other people when, for example, we're angry, or then when we're addressing, when we're angry at a partner or talking to people in that way. But we'll talk about that shortly. So, and interestingly, the cure, or that the way we work with negative self-talk, or one of the ways, is to kind of become more crazy, because what we do is that we introduce other voices into our heads to kind of counteract the negative voices that are already in our heads, and then we end up having dialogues between several parts of ourselves within our own head. So if that's not crazy, and that's what we have to do. We have to go into craziness to kind of deal with this. But it's actually not crazy. It's really just the way our minds are structured. And so I want to point out the couple of concepts here that are really illustrated through negative self-talk before I actually talk about how do we work with negative self-talk. So one is that negative self-talk relates to negative self-worth. These are negative beliefs and ideas about ourselves, and that we acquire actually at a young age and are brought forward. So negative self-worth, and I'll let you in on a secret right here, you know, probably the foundation of most mental health issues is negative self-worth. At the core, if you really drill down to what really bothers people, or what makes people anxious, is this idea of themselves as not good enough, of not worthy, of not being worth anything. And the pain of feeling that feeling is so great that we'll go to great lengths to avoid it. So if we start to follow our negative thoughts, or if we have anxiety, for example, and we start to notice that we're anxious, and we start to say, what am I anxious about? And it's all because of this thing. And then if we start to ask ourselves the question, well, what about that thing is making us anxious? And then we come to another idea. If we follow that, and I'll probably do a whole, probably, you know, session on this subject alone. But if we follow that path, it usually drills down to some sort of sense of, I'm going to fail, and if I fail, I'm going to reject it. It's going to show that I'm not good enough, that I'm not worthy, and I can't stand that pain. And so I have to do well on this thing. Otherwise, it's going to show that I'm not good enough. And people, that drives anxiety. People will, you know, be anxious that they're going to fail. And if they fail, that, you know, the thing that makes them so anxious is the pain of that realization that they're not good enough. The same with depression. You know, they have these thoughts about, I'm not good enough. I'm never going to be able to do it. Nothing's ever going to change, all those sorts of things. And a lot of those drill down to self-worth. So, and what's at the bottom of just about all trauma is self-worth as well. People that have suffered significant trauma, I haven't met a traumatized person that doesn't have profound issues of self-worth, not feeling good enough. And there's reasons that I can talk about that on another day, but that's just a core feature. Okay, so so when I work with people with anxiety, a combination of anxiety and depression, I will often be looking for trauma, because there's often some sort of early childhood trauma behind that whole notion as well. Not everybody is traumatized, and that has negative self-talk. Everybody sort of has negative self-talk, because we have all encountered challenges in our lives. We've all experienced a sense of failure, or not good enough, or not being up to somebody's expectations. So we always adapt this little voice in our head. And the reason that we have these negative voices in our head is that if you start to analyze them, if you start to pay attention to your negative voices, you may notice that they have some sort of similarity to maybe our parents' voices and what they may have said, or mean brothers or sisters, or kids that bullied us, things like that. Voices in our past that get planted in our head. You know, I always say that we don't need negative parents. We don't need negative parents around to make us feel bad, because we put them into our heads as adults, and then we are our own negative parent and say negative things to ourselves. So, but anyway, people that have really bad adverse childhoods are going to have they really internalize those voices. And part of that is because when we're young and still in the developmental stage, especially pre-7, when we're still becoming who we are, when we're still developing our personalities, developing our resources, we don't have all of our capability. We don't have our physical capabilities. We're not capable of physically looking at after ourselves, and we're also not capable of fully regulating our emotional states. So if you notice that babies, they cry, they need comforted, they need parents to shush them and hold them and feed them and all those sorts of things to soothe their agitation, soothe their nervous system. Kids can't do that on their own. So they look to parents to do that. And sometimes they do it in a nurturing way, and sometimes they put these negative things, shut up, don't do, what do you, what's the matter, you want to smack? They have ways of controlling them through the things that are said and behaviors that are had. So kids will tend to look to external influences of people that are supposed to regulate them and take in those ideas about regulation. So, and a lot of negatives don't do that, don't shut it down. The other part of negative self-talk is our unconscious minds are always there to keep us safe. And that sounds strange. Why would we beat ourselves up and talk negatively to ourselves if we're trying to keep ourselves safe? Because a lot of the things that are things that if we got yelled at or got ridiculed or felt pain around something, those were things that we didn't like to experience. And so if we got ridiculed for being different or not doing this or that or the other thing, our minds are saying, make sure that you don't be different. Don't, do those things you're not supposed to do. Otherwise, you're going to be bad. You're going to be painful. So we're trying to prevent ourselves from doing things we shouldn't do or things that are going to put us in some position of failure or negativity or rejection or ridicule or something like that. And so anytime we are doing something that could be considered wrong in our kind of self-evaluation of things, we're going to kind of come down on ourselves. And so, sorry to go on, but it's kind of all connected to this early childhood stuff and rooted in how we acquire a negative self-image and these voices coming out of that sense of negative self-worth and how we acquire that. So that's one principle, very core principle to lots of therapy. I'm always dealing with senses of value, negative valuing of self, negative beliefs about self, and they are core to all kinds of things. So just that little negative self-talk is illustrating a core principle of the driver of mental health issues. Second thing is awareness. Okay, awareness we need to is a tool that we have to use to start to work with an issue like negative self-talk, because the job one is to be aware that you're actually doing that. You have to see yourself or become aware of the fact that you are talking to yourself negatively. So that's a number one principle to any kind of change in working, self-development, working with ourselves, or trying to change something. We can't change something that we're not aware of. So we have to become aware of it. Now, this whole idea of awareness, in this case, self-awareness, is popularized right now by the idea of mindfulness. So most people have heard about mindfulness. Mindfulness is kind of a big thing out there. It's big in the mental health field. You could mindfulness techniques, mindfulness-based cognitive behavior therapy and all this. And mindfulness is really another word for awareness. So there's a couple of short principles of mindfulness. One, if we're trying to be mindful, we're trying to be present in the here and the now. We're trying to focus on being our awareness, thinking about stuff in the future or ruminating about stuff in the past, that we become very present and aware. So if you're listening to this podcast here, if you're paying attention to the screen and to me, hopefully you're not thinking of, stuff you got to do after this is done, or ruminating about stuff you did before we started, that you're just here and now and looking at this. So that's an art to cultivating being here and now, and just our attention on what's here and now. The other thing is part of mindfulness is awareness. So once we're centering ourselves, if we're doing a mindfulness meditation, we're centering ourselves in the here and the now, and then we'll start to just notice what's going on. First we tune into our physical senses. What am I hearing? What am I feeling? What am I seeing? But then we move to our internal thing. What am I thinking? What am I feeling? And it's that ability to cultivate what am I thinking and what am I feeling, which provides the second part of what we need to know in terms of dealing with our negative self-talk, is cultivating awareness that we have negative self-talk. A lot of times we're saying a lot of negative things and we're not really aware of it. It's just kind of going on in the background here. So we need to cultivate that awareness. So those two concepts are very important in the mental health field right now: self-worth and awareness, and cultivating awareness. I think I talked last time about one of the goals of therapy, one of the goals of personal development, is to make things that are unconscious, things that are outside of awareness, the drivers of our behavior, the things that make us tick, those things that are operating on an unconscious level, to make them conscious. So we have to, that's self-awareness, to make what's not in your awareness within your awareness. And so when things are within our awareness, then we can do something about them. We can start to manipulate and change those things. Okay, just a little sip of tea here. I hope you have some tea too, and that you're joining me here. And maybe have a little fire or whatever, making yourself comfortable and just enjoying a nice cup of tea. Okay, so. Okay, what else do I have in my notes here? Okay, first step of negative self-talk is to become aware of it and paying attention to the negative things that we're saying to ourselves. And if you really start to notice the negative things that you say to yourself, if you actually talked to your friends the way you talk to yourself, you wouldn't have any friends, because they'd all hate you, because we say terrible things to ourselves. You know, we'll say, you know, what the hell is the matter with you? What are you, stupid effing idiot? You know, what are you, worthless beast, and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, what did you do that for? And, you know, couldn't you do that? But you'll never get this. You'll never understand. What's the matter with you? You know, those are the kinds of things that we're saying to ourselves. And that's really a downer. And of course, if you said that to your friend, or your friend said that to you, you wouldn't like it very much, and they wouldn't like it very much. And it doesn't work for us either. So on some level, we're trying to motivate ourselves, or we're trying to, you know, make ourselves not do the things that we think we're not supposed to do by creaming ourselves, by really coming down and saying awful things. Well, you may know that if you are working with other people, if you're training people, if you're a coach, you know, coach is a good example. If you're trying to achieve a goal with them, of helping that person learn something or to improve themselves, and you talk really negatively. So say you're a coach, or if you've had a coach and you're coaching some kid and you're coaching gymnastics, and that it's trying to do some move and they're not getting it. And then you're saying, what the hell is the matter with you? What, are you useless? You know, you're no talent, no nothing. I don't even know why you're here. You're just wasting my time. You know, what the heck are you doing? Like, you shouldn't even be in my class. You're useless. You'll never cut it. You'll never be a gymnast. I don't even know why you even thought that you could even come into this class. I wonder how helpful that would be to a kid or anybody that's trying to learn something. You know, nothing, not really very helpful. It doesn't inspire them to keep going and to try and improve or anything like that. You know, at most it may, out of fear, make them try and do better because they're afraid of getting that kind of negative feedback. But they really wouldn't have very good experience and probably wouldn't learn that skill very well by having the negative coach. Okay, now compare that to a positive coach, a good coach. Okay, a good coach, if they're working with somebody in gymnastics, they'd be saying, okay, you're not quite getting, setting off on the right foot, but if you jump off on this foot and then, and then put the other foot in, that will do it. And if you keep practicing, that's it. Yeah, keep going. You'll get it. Don't worry. It's just a matter of practice. You've got all the basic skills, and you're going to be able to get this move. You almost got it. Yeah, if you keep doing that, you're going to get, that's it. Yeah, great job. Okay, so that's a good coach. The good coach encourages. They provide positivity. They convey that they believe in that person, that they believe that they have the abilities, that if they keep working at it, they're going to get it. And don't be discouraged by, you didn't get it on the first time and all that kind of stuff. So that's the good coach. The good coach talks in an encouraging way. Like, a coach has to be aware of when the person, needs improvement and when they're not doing something right, because their goal is to get them to be successful. So you can't just pretend that they're doing okay when they're kind of really not. You have to point out what they have to improve, but you provide the encouragement. And so we have to take that concept into ourselves, in our own minds. So when we have the negative coach that starts to come in and say, what the hell's the matter with you? Who do you think you are? And blah, blah, and saying awful things. First of all, we have to stop that. As soon as you notice that, you have to stop. There's a technique called thought stopping, where you literally say in your head, stop, and you visualize a stop sign and just stop that negative voice in its tracks. So you got to stop it doing that. And then you have to start to cultivate the positive coach. You have to start to say, okay, you almost have to talk to yourself like a kid, or like somebody that needs encouragement, because really it's the kid part in you that kind of regresses back to that stage when you felt bad in those times, that needs that help and support now. So you always have to be the good coach and say, oh, it's okay. Don't worry. You made a mistake. We'll get it next time. We'll keep working at it. We're going to get there. Don't worry. This is, what's happening, tonight, that's going to be good. And there's going to be friends here, and you can talk to your friends and get help. So you've got a problem solver, supportive kind of person. You have to bring that positive voice in to counteract the negative voice. And so you actually start to have to talk to yourself just like a good parent, like a parent talks to a child, how you nurture and cultivate a child. And it sounds kind of silly, but we're talking to ourselves in that way. Or you might even have to say to the negative voice, now you can't talk to him like that. You have to start to, you have to, be kind and good, and almost like, correcting the negative voice. So we're actually sort of bringing this kind of cast of voices into our heads. And this is what we would call in therapy parts work. And we particularly do this in hypnosis. As a matter of fact, I think it may have evolved out of in hypnosis, a concept that we attach to the part of us that is capable, and then there's a part of us that struggles, and we have those two parts in dialogue with each other. And sometimes you put one part in charge that should be in charge because the wrong person's been in charge, and that's kind of how we work with that. And so you have to kind of cultivate these inner voices. And what is that all about? And that means that when we can bring another voice in to talk to ourselves in a different way, that means that we're controlling our thoughts. And this is another fundamental skill that needs to be learned, is that we can control our thoughts and our feelings. Nobody ever taught us how to control our thoughts and feelings. They just kind of happen to us. But we can stop the negative voice. We can then bring in a different voice. And we can look at things in different ways. And we can change our thoughts. We can stop these negative thoughts and move on to something positive. So there's an art here and skill of learning to control your thoughts. And when you control your thoughts, you're also controlling your feeling, because our feelings are usually based on the thoughts that we're thinking and the perceptions that we have. So if, we don't usually have a feeling about something until we have a perception about it. So, if you hear a car crash into your car outside, it might be, oh my God, somebody hit my car, and you're freaking out and you're looking, but then you look out and say, oh, and it's not my car, it's across the neighbors over there or something. So somebody rammed into a parked car. Nobody's hurt, but it's not my car. Well, you have to have the perception first and the thought that that's my car that got hit, and that ramps up, that feeling that comes with it. But as soon as you change that and say, well, it's not my car, then you can calm down. And so we learn that when we control our thoughts, we control our emotional reactions. And this is what people will commonly think of as cognitive behavior therapy, is understanding our thoughts, feelings, and then creating new thoughts and feelings to change those ideas in our head. So really those crazy person voices that are going on in our head, they're kind of normal voices, and we're all kind of crazy because our crazy work is to get more voices in there and choose new voices and have new conversations with ourselves. So it's all about that. So I guess I'm reaching kind of about the 25-minute mark. So I am going to kind of wrap this up, but we'll open it up to if anybody has any questions or comments about any of this. And I can briefly address any questions that anybody may have. I hope this is clear. And I wait for any comments to pop up. Just encourage people that to please ask any questions you might, even after this live session is done. It will still be up on Facebook, so you can keep posting at any time. I'll read those comments, and if you have suggestions about any topics, or if there's something that you need clarified, I'll take those into account and may be able to address it at our next session. So don't think I've got anything at the moment. So I will just wrap up from here. I'll let people put comments on the posting after we're done. But in the meantime, thank you so much for joining me. And please join me each Sunday at 4:30. I also post these to my YouTube channel, so you can go to my channel. It's just Phil Naylor. I'm not sure how the YouTube is set up, so sorry about that. But you can view these later at any time. So thanks for joining me. And I hope that these little sessions can help you and give you some food for thought and some tools to practice and skills to have as you go through your week. Thanks very much for joining me. This is Phil Naylor, your therapist for tea, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.